Hey there everyone, Luke here. Now, before we get talking about Doctor Stone chapter 199 this week, which, by the way, it's been 100 chapters since the building of the Perseus, and to celebrate the occasion they decide to bring the Perseus back, but not in the way we probably all wanted. But anyway, before we get on into that chapter, I just want to say one thing here, is that I managed to get the author comments quite early this week. Mind you, I'm doing this quite early. I'm doing this at night time, at like midnight time. But anyway, what we have here is, yeah, like right literally on midnight. I was saying all of that. So we have Boichi saying, in his author comments this week, there must be so many people who have lost what is precious to them. All I can do is draw manga and offer my support, which that's got to be the most wholesome thing ever. Like, you've got to respect Boichi and Inagaki who do stuff like that. Who are like, yes, I know you've lost people or lost a bit precious to you. It must be hard. So the way I can support you and give you my condolences is just giving you some good hard entertainment by giving you this chat this week. So that's kind of nice on his part. But for now, we'll talk about chapter 199. Okay, so like I said, this is chapter 199. One chapter until chapter 200, big milestone next week. There may be cake. But anyway, it's titled Super Alloys, which is obviously a reference to the fact that one of the first tasks to build the spaceship that they've got to do is the super alloys. And the cover page this week is quite interesting because it shows Suika in basically a pose with knight armor and swords. Now, I had to, as I was looking at this page, I was like thinking, like, I know I've seen that somewhere before, but I couldn't help figure out where. I couldn't help wonder where it was from, and then it hit me, chapter 23. Sort of like in that chapter, there's a panel where you see Chrome, Kohaku, Senku, and Kinru in knight armor themselves. So this is a nice callback to that chapter, like really early on in the series. And this might actually be at like Boichi and Inagaki foreshadowing Suika's future of being like a knight of the Kingdom of Science, or not just the science team but also the power team. So that'll be quite interesting to see where that actually goes, if that's the way they're actually going to go with her character and what her importance to the series is going to be overall. But anyway, we start off the chapter with the caption saying, Dr. Sinu has joined the party. So yes, we've got Dr. Sinu on the Kingdom of Science for now, because there may be a chance he may backstab Senku in the future. We don't know. Like, Pi Chance was thinking like that was going to be Chelsea's whole deal, like she was going to betray the Kingdom of Science. I think it's going to be more Sinu's notion, like when he actually does get a chance to have Stanley back. Unless Senku and company have plans for Stanley's statue. But anyway, we see Ginru and Matsukazu. We finally got to see them. I think that was probably because people, like a lot of us, were wondering, like, where the hell are they? Why haven't you shown them already? Have you got something to hide, Boichi and Nagaki? And I think it was them saying like, oh crap, we haven't actually shown them being revived. So yeah, here they are. But anyway, we see them like getting nervous about Sinu and wondering if he really can play nice, before Gen goes on to say, I have to ask the Asinu, what on earth is this super array suspicious machine? But Sinu confirms that it's actually just an AC, like it cools the air. And Taiju, for all of his not being the sharpest tool in the shed, it's able to actually identify that it's an AC. And Sinu goes on to say to explain that this extracts argon from the atmosphere, and Kohaku in all her Kohaku-ness is just like, it goes all over her. So she's like, argon. I can't for the life of me get on this point. And it's interesting because Suika, despite being a lot older, still could potentially have the mentality of a child at this point. Even she's getting more into the science now by saying, now that I've got some science experience on my side, I'm curious to know how this thing works. Which obviously can be called back to when Chrome was first introduced, and he was just getting mega excited about everything, whereas Suika at that time was kind kind of in the same boat as Koroku. Like, she was like really confused about what is actually going on. Like, particularly the cell phone. Perfect example here is the cell phone, when Suika was like getting confused about how that is, and it's like, yeah, this is all going over my head, but Chrome and Kosuke were the ones like, I've got to know how that works. I've really got to know how that works. And Suika is kind of in that position now of like, now that she knows and understands science a little bit more, she's got to know how it all works herself. And this might be potentially setting her up to be sort of like more of an establishment of Senku's right-hand people in terms of the science team, because Chrome is his right-hand man when it comes to science now, but Suika could obviously be his left hand as well, being like, okay, this is my wild card, I play Suika, so that she can actually be on the power team, but also on the science team as well, and get more experience on those areas as well. Because Suika, now that we've had that cover page of her in armor and with a sword, now we probably expect her to have some fighting skills as well at this point. But yeah, I love that about how she's now getting more interested in the science aspect, and we see them going on to explain once the argon gas is trapped in the glass tube, they'll simply apply high voltage. And Suika says, but the electricity SIPSAB doesn't pass through gas. Even I've learned that much. And Sinu, for all his like arrogance and kind of like he comes off as like this evil dictator bastard person, knows when to actually give credit where credit is due. As he says, it's quite elegant how much knowledge you've gained, Suika. Which Sinu hasn't done that for many people. He's done it for like Taiju of all people, Chrome, Senku, obviously, and Chelsea, and now Suika. So she's in that rare category of people who have been acknowledged by Suika. So good on her. Anyway, Sinu goes on to say that rather than talking about the details of the situation, they're actually going to demonstrate by doing a field demonstration. And Gen wonders if Senku picked up this habit from his mentor, which, yeah, knowing Senku, this is probably something he picked up from Sinu. But anyway, we see them gradually going around and gathering ore deposits as Chrome is using some sort of device to actually detect where ore is actually coming from. And Sinu says that the pulse and the gas has suddenly become conductive thanks to the radioactive elements from the minerals. And this is where Gen is like getting freaked about this. Like, you don't actually mean, if I heard radioactive there, so you don't actually mean that this device is a Geiger counter. Now, I don't know what a Geiger counter is, but from what Senior's actually saying here, I assume it's like kind of like a metal detector, but used to gather ores instead of obviously metals. So it's kind of like a mini version of a metal detector, if that makes sense. That's probably the best that I can figure it out here. But anyway, everyone's going on to say that this is too scary, and Senior Science has always had this dark side to it. That will become important later on. Keep that comment in mind from Max, but Senior goes on to say this method was used to locate ore deposits in the 21st century. Even a school child could construct the device with the gas from, say, a lighter. Don't give kids any ideas, Senior, because now they're gonna actually do it. Now that they actually have that knowledge. But yeah, even a school child could construct the device, unless you're Senku, who creates electrical guns to sap the bullies that were constantly tormenting him when he was a child. So we get a montage of everyone just gathering around the ore minerals, and Chrome uses his Geiger counter to determine the minerals. So we've seen them using a boat to travel down the river, and we see them gathering chrome ore, molybdite, element ore, pyrocolia ore, and nickel ore, which I did say that nickel was one of the minerals that they would need to actually get on board with constructing the spaceship. But one of the ores that they don't have, or one of the minerals that they don't have, is cobalt at this point, which again, it makes me think that they are still actually going to have to go to Africa to get some cobalt, unless they find it in some other location that's on the map, because we've still got Rubber City, Aluminium City, and Math City. So whether they'll find it in those few areas, that remains to be seen. But anyway, Gen actually oversees this, is actually quite surprised, and he goes, why I feel as if these rare rocks might have shown up in Monster Hunter. That's like the second time in this series that Monster Hunter has been mentioned as being a puppet. Why not Skyrim? Why not mention Skyrim at some point? But anyway, I've never played Monster Hunter. I've played more Skyrim, so that's why I'm kind of biased for that. But anyway, one thing I've got to love in this panel right here is just the love heart eyes that Senku and Sinu are actually doing. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you can tell like when they actually get really excited about something, they're really excited about something. But anyway, they say the rare metals was we seriously need for a spaceship. What a treasure haul! Not bad excavation team. Elegant, no. A true soul sanctuary, as you put it. But of course, they also need one other metal, which they're about to salvage. As we finally see the Perseus, and it is bad, like really bad, like just completely destroyed at this point, which makes sense. Even though I kind of personally would have liked it if they weren't gonna have to rebuild the Perseus, but. Hey ho, what can you do? But anyway, we see the condition the Perseus is in. It is bad, like really bad. And Kazuki is like really devastated about this, which I cannot blame him. He spent a whole year getting excited about building this thing, and when he finally got to see it, he was like excited about it, and now, yeah, that's all gone downhill now. I don't know whether that takes away from the moment in chapter 99, but then again, we've had the Perseus for about like a little over 2 years, 2 years in publication, so would have liked to have seen more of it, the original Perseus, but what can you do? But anyway, he's getting upset about having to have it make a wait for all those years, and Chrome is like, bad, the ship's all red, but not completely drained yet, which makes me believe that they might actually be able to do something about it if they have some full restores or potions or super potions or max potions to get it working again. Okay, I'm making a Pokemon reference here. Hey, they're making references to RPGs. I'll make a reference to an RPG here. But anyway, joking aside, Gen says that it's been rusted, and Sinu confirms that once abandoned, your craft quickly loses its damaged functions and was doomed to sink, which makes sense because the outer shell of the Perseus was made of wood, so it was obviously going to rot away at some point. But anyway, Kazuki doesn't let this affect him, as he's like, the Perseus is going to be revived, so before he actually sees everyone just breaking apart the Perseus, I don't know, was it made of wood? It seems like it's made of wood, but yeah, it might have been, the outer shell might have been made of wood, but a lot of the insides might have been made of iron, which is what they're salvaging. As Ryusui says, that they're recycling the iron, and Chelsea agrees that it totally sucks this, but obviously there's no iron in this part of South America, so the Perseus has to be the substitute here. But Senku reassures him that it's a good thing that it's this way, because they're going to rebuild the Perseus something better, faster and stronger, which makes me believe they're going to be making it out of metal, like complete metal, the outer shell, making it bigger, faster and stronger, which gets Kazuki mega excited at this point, and I'm really interested to see how long this is actually going to take to build this new Perseus, how long that's actually going to take. And Kazuki and Gen says, you know just how to activate dear Kazuki at this point, before they go on to say that they add metal to metal, use some science to activate the super combined transforming sequence, and you get the super alloys you need, which we get a mecha in Dr. Stone, and I love on that mecha it kind of has like it has the letters DR, like obviously being the abbreviation for doctor. So I just love moments like that. Okay, now we get to the part of chapter that actually had me and Party Jams like really confused when we watched this. We cut over to what appears to be the Kingdom of Science on the Isle of Martin Garcia, which, if you don't know, the Isle of Martin Garcia is like right down off the coast of Uruguay, which is quite a bit away from Axial, where they originally set up Fort Medusa and were originally setting up Super Alloy City. So my guess is that use the motorcycles. They rebuilt the motorcycles off screen to kind of get there a bit faster, or they just use the motors from the motorcycles on boats and actually power down the river to get to the Isle of Marta Garcia. Which, if they did, and we did some calculations here, it would have taken them like about a day to travel there, like at 60 miles per hour. So if they were doing that, okay, but either way, that leaves like a little bit of a head scratch. Like, why did they skip over that? Like, could we at least get like, wow, at least a line that says, wow, it took us a day to get here, but by attaching the motorcycle motors to boats, but we finally got to this island, which we're going to be using as part of the super alloy. See, couldn't they have at least said that? Something like that. But anyway, that's something we've just got to take into account. Like, fine, they did that off screen. Do we like it? Probably not, but fine, we're just going to have to accept it as we see them already. So, or just maybe like a week's pass between getting back the Perseus and actually say go part of the city on the Isle of Marta Garcia, as we see them already, as we see furnaces already built up and them actually smashing the iron down and tossing in broken bits of chrome orb, which, by the way, this is all made up for by Suika's line here where she says, chrome, we're tossing chrome in. Like, it took them that long to make that pun, basically. Like, really? It took them that long? Well, I guess they're using chrome, the mineral chromonium, or chrome for the first time here. I don't know, but I find it surprising that it's taken them that long to make that comparison based on the villagers' names. But anyway, Senior goes on to say, correct, by adding chrome to our mixture, the new alloy is endowed with multiple characteristics and quirks. Better not let the My Hero Academia fan base get at you for that comment, Sinu. But yeah, they're making it stronger, which is a key scientific principle. No rust, no corrosion, yielding an invincible super alloy, which is the stainless steel. So they've acquired the stainless steel, which I'm kind of disappointed that they got it this quickly. But anyway, what can you do? There's some things that you kind of like, okay, we have to move on because time is not of the essence, as they do explain this in this chapter. But anyway, this is what I was saying. Like, it'll be interesting to see if they actually coat the Perseus with the stainless steel to make it, as Senku put it, bigger, faster, and stronger. And I'm really interested to see what this new looking of the Perseus actually is. Continuing on, they say, oh, okay, now that we've got this super stainless steel, super alloyed, what can we make with it? And Senku gets a really good grin on his face. It's like, I've got the perfect thing that we can make with this. This is really gonna help us out with stainless steel. Now we finally get, and they're like, finally get what? Canned food. And they're just like, boring. I was like, okay, that was a pretty funny take about it, because they've had so many scientific advancements. You've had boats, you've had planes, you've had motorcycles, you've had swords, you've had glass itself, you've had a spaceship, and then to go down to canned food, it's like, yeah, that's kind of a step down and it's kind of boring. But come on, guys, now that you have stainless steel, you can get cola or diet cola, which, again, you lost an opportunity here for that, because we all know how you love your colas. Again, you could have said to Senku, hey, does that mean I can get a canned cola right now? Yeah, he kind of lost a little bit of a opportunity there to actually mention that. Now, one thing, trying to go off on a bit of a tangent here, but one thing I kind of have to agree with Shonen Oji on his Twitch stream that he did a few hours ago. He mentioned that, yeah, there's not really any PTSD trauma going on with the characters at this point, which, now that I've mentioned again, you think he would be the first one to actually experience it, because he literally saw Taiju die right in front of him, and he actually had a mental breakdown during the war with Stanley, which I probably think that's actually gonna be brought up at some point during the journeys back to North America, Treasure Island, and Japan, which Reese said that's what they're gonna do. Plus, we have to figure out what that mysterious light was in chapter 193 after the second petrification. What that was at Ishigami Village, whether it was an ally or an antagonistic force just waiting for them when they actually do return. Although I said it would be pretty funny if it was actually Shovel, you know, the bucktooth girl from Ishigo and Fish. That was the one that was revived, and she was doing something similar to Suika, only she's been failing countless times because she doesn't have as much scientific know-how as Suika does. So it'll be interesting if she was actually the one to revive if there was actually, like Sean and OG has been predicted, a barrier that can actually protect people from petrification. So it'll be pretty interesting to see if that's the direction Inagaki and Baruchi are going to go down, as something that even Senku can't counter against at this point. So that'll be interesting to see. But anyway, we continuing on. Sorry, I wanted to go off on a little bit of a tangent there. We see Hyoga and Tsukasa carrying a mountain of meat. Okay, how strong are these two? How strong are these two to actually carry that insane amount of meat there? I don't know. But anyway, we see Franco's cooking the food, and we see Senku and Sinu discussing it, and that they're free to pillage every ultra rare metal we come across. We can find across the planet. The addition of synchronium and tatalium will produce elegant food cans that could last for at least 3,700 years. Now, those were two minerals that I actually were brought up in my research. So it's kind of interesting to see that, yes, they were two of the minerals that I actually learned in my research. So it's kind of interesting that are some of the things that I'm actually predicting are actually coming into pass. But yeah, can last for 3,700 years. Yes, you know, I think this kind of baked beans that expires on November 2022 might have something to say to you. But anyway, Senku goes on to say that a can like that would have cost $1 million in the old days, and this is where everyone gets excited. It's like, first they were like, canned food boring, but when Senku mentioned $1 million, I was like, $1 million yen? And then he brings up the knives, the stainless steel knives, and they see Franco's cutting the food with the knives, and all of a sudden like, oh, we love stainless steel stuff now. I just find moments like that hilarious. Koraku and Chrome go on to say that with the stainless steel, there'll always be food ready to serve so that they can get to reviving cities with people all around the world, which makes sense that once they revive people, they're still going to have to find food, but now they can actually preserve it over long periods and long journeys. And Chrome is like, now hang on, that might be true, but we still need that stuff for the rocket and the ship, which again, is so true on Chrome's part. Like, you need to think about, like, okay, which ores and minerals do we need to use, and which ones are the most valuable and which ones are the most important, and how much of it do we actually use. But anyway, we cut to Max and Carlos, who are randomly reviving a bunch of people on what looks like the Isle of Martina Garcia. Before we get Taiji just hacking away with a pickaxe, and I'm thinking like, oh my god, this is hard. And we see him get everyone's attention about reviving a bunch of Sunny's forces, including Maya and Charlotte, as well as possibly Leonard. As we see what Taiju has looks like bottle number 75, so I guess they've revived 75 people in Super Alloy City. I don't know. But anyway, after Maya is revived, Cena explains to her, Charlotte, and all of Stanley's forces, except Stanley, which makes me believe that they're actually going to keep Stanley petrified and take him with them when they go back to North America and Treasure Island, all of that, just to keep Cena in check. It's like, okay, we're going to keep his statue so that we know you are going to help us with the actual building of the spaceship. And Cena explains everything to them and how how they're going to be going to the moon. And what I love about this chapter as well, more so than I think Pyjams does, is we get shots of how much time it's actually passing, because we see a few days actually pass, because we see the full moon, then we see a new day, and then we see a crescent moon. So a few days are obviously passing at this point. But anyway, they go on to say the ship we need for our moon mission still requires plenty of resources that are scattered all over the world. So basically, they're still going to be crafting the spaceship, but they have no time to lose, and they still have to go on their worldwide treasure hunt. Before Cino actually makes an offer of like, shall we divide and conquer then? I crafted the rocket engine, well, you build the new Perseus. So that's probably going to be the tasks at hand. Like, Sinu's probably going to stay behind in Super Alloy City to actually build this rocket engine. And once they have all the minerals and everything, they can actually come back to Super Alloy City and build up the spaceship from there. So it actually blasts off from quite near where the location of the original petrification beam took place, which would make the most sense, make the most poetic sense. The place where the petrification beam first happened is now the place where they're actually going to solve the mystery of the petrification by actually using the rocket to actually travel to where the Y-Man is on the moon. And that's probably what's going to be the case. Once they build the Perseus, Senku is going to take Stanley's statue with them to say, like, look, we don't fully trust you, Sinu. Well, you may have joined our party, but if you can get your hands on Stanley's statue, who's to say you won't turn against us at that point? So that's probably going to be Stanley's bargaining chip at that point. Senku says to him, "Yeah, time is not on our side, so the science pros can't work together all buddy." And Sinu notes that the stainless steel they've made is only level 1. So I'm glad that they're actually still keeping to that plan, and I'm glad that they're actually bringing up with the fact that yes, there are going to be more levels to this, and if they have any hope of reaching the Y-Man via spacecraft, they're going to require far more superior super alloys. Which comes into play by using a facility which converts nickel to gas, thereby purifying it. To put it simple, the factory will level up our super alloys, but I don't think it will level them up by a whole lot needed for the spaceship at this point. Like, they'll need more minerals from all over the world to actually come back to actually be built up to actually get to that level 99 point, basically. So it'll be interesting to see what minerals they're actually going to collect from around the world, whether it's going to be in any of the 3 cities or adding new cities, like I said, like adding cities from South Africa, for example. Getting comments on the fact that Sinu comments on the fact that the process creates a fatal toxin that not even a gas mask could guard against, where when absorbed through the skin, it quickly leads to a death. And this freaks Chrome, and again, completely the hell out at this point. But Sinu quickly goes on, and this is where we get Sinu's resolve of where he stands on his position in the Kingdom of Science, which for me was great. We got great characteristics from Sinu, and I'm sure Red is going to be very happy about this. That Sinu, despite joining the party, is still going to be a bit of a bastard and a bit of a dick, and still sticking to his conventions of actually sticking to the idea of, like, I want to rule over the world and be a dictator, because there are some awful people who don't appreciate science the way we do. So to take them over with our science that we're building and sending into the future, that would be my goal. And you know, in a way, he's not wrong at certain points, but he goes on to say, a leak could have deadly results, so we're starting with our level 1 stainless steel, which can contain the poison. Perhaps I'll stand over there. Reaching for outer space will require more resources as we continue across our scientific roadmap. Poison and other horrors are inevitable, and lesser minds are sure to be critical for us dabbling with such forces. So again, he's saying, like, yes, I am aware that we're going to be dabbling in some controversial territory here, which some people who, in his mind, probably have the minds of like a Magma or a Ginru. I'm thinking, like, that's a little bit too extreme, and you should not be doing this. You shouldn't be dabbling with this. He's going to be like, yeah, I know that, but that's just the way I roll, and screw you guys, I'm going to continue doing it no matter what, because I'm the guy who's going to be saving the world alongside Senku here, so you better listen to me, otherwise I'm not going to help you at all. And he says, the journey demands a filling, and I shall be happy to accept this role as science user of darkness. So again, loving the fact that, again, Sinu is basically chaotic neutral at this point. It's like, yes, I'm on your side, Senku, but at the same time, I'm going to be doing the science my way, whereas you're going to be doing the science your way, and we're just going to have to work to compromise with our 2 different viewpoints on science, because I want to do it my way, so that lesser minds are not dictating what I want to say or affecting my decision emotionally, whereas you can be more of the one who's listening and being more open to criticism, whereas me, I'm not going to be listening to any of that. So it's quite interesting that we're still getting that conviction from the senior, and he's still sticking to it. And he goes on to say, I shall ignore the beating of the mindless masses, leaving me free to commit the necessary science. So he's basically saying, like, yes, I know this is. I know in your eyes you may see this as like you shouldn't be doing this, but this is necessary science for us to actually save the world. And he says, meanwhile, Seiko, you'll be the science user of light, the one who leads us all into a bright future. So he'll basically be more of like the one who needs his allies around and needs criticisms to make sure that he doesn't fall off the edge. Basically, doesn't become a senior himself, where because senior's going to be taking on that role of being like the villainous science user still. So it's quite interesting that we get that character motivation from senior at this point and where he actually stands in the kingdom of science. He goes on to say how truly elegant, to every role, the perfect player. And we see Chrome going on to say, bringing together different types to create the strongest possible team, just like Super Alloy, as we see Maya and Taiju, who despite not working together, not knowing each other, not knowing anything about one another, are still like, hey, you're strong, I'm strong, let's work together. So quite interesting that we get that, and we get the end of the chapter where Kaku is standing over and saying, haha, people from all over the globe can finally come together as one. Super Alloyed City found, science is how we'll stand against the powers of the fantastic with a scientist of darkness and of light. And that's where the chapter ends, where we see many people who have been revived by Carlos and Max off screen, celebrating the fact that they've been revived. Now, I have to agree with Pyrojams here. There are a few things that I kind of like a bit. Maybe they should have like expanded on this a bit more. And yeah, maybe David might have a point at some point where they're actually skipping over some of the scientific creativity. This might be the chapter that I might actually kind of concede that he might actually have a point at this point. Still a good chapter. I still enjoyed it. It was still my chapter of the week, but a few little things like exactly how long did they spend getting to the Isle of Marta Garcia, and how long they actually spent building up Super Alloy. So it would have been interesting to see it actually being built up and see some of these people's reaction to actually being awake, and they're just automatically following Senku and Senior at this point because I guess they're the smartest people in the world. Now, question is like, where do we actually go from here? Because people were saying, they actually brought this up in the chapter that there's probably going to be some mindless, idiotic people who are not going to agree with Sinu or Senku, and it's probably going to lead to another turf war and another struggle of power. It might not happen here, but it'll probably happen in possibly Math City, Rubber City, or Aluminium City, possibly Math City, or more so, where we might actually get a genius mathematician who's basically more like, this is my way or the highway. If you don't like it, tough. Or we might get a corrupt politician. That's something that we need at this point in the series, a corrupt politician, which I'm looking forward to seeing if that is the case. But another thing is that, where do we actually go? Like, how long are they actually going to be spending on building the new Perseus or building the rocket engine? That remains to be seen. And how many people are actually going to stay behind with Sinu, if Sinu is actually going to be the one to stay behind to actually build up the rocket engine, and whether or not we're going to cut back to him at some point. That's things that remain to be seen. Personally, I wouldn't mind if we got 3 chapters of just building the Perseus up, seeing the new stages of the Perseus, and we get chapter 203 or possibly 205 where we actually set off to actually start reviving everyone. But anyway, whether that all happened, that remains to be seen. And maybe we can use that time to get more character development from the other characters, like maybe build up Suika a bit more and find out what her role in the Kingdom of Science is actually going to be from this point. But anyway, guys, what did you think of this chapter? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lasherluke signing off. Later, guys.